All right, can you state your name and your title here at South?
Yeah, my name is Brett Webb. I'm a professor in the Department of Civil, Coastal, and Environmental Engineering.
What classes do you teach or have taught?
I have taught a lot of different classes over the past 10 years, but my primary responsibility is to deal with the water classes at the undergraduate level and in coastal engineering classes, either as technical electives or at the graduate level. But end up teaching maybe 2 undergraduate classes a semester and then 1 or 2 graduate classes in addition to that.
Do you have a favorite class to teach?
My favorite class to teach is actually fluid mechanics, because it's got a combination of civil and mechanical engineering students in it. It's a big class, you can have a lot of fun, lots of hands-on demos that you can do with that, and I used to love teaching that class, so hopefully I'll get a chance to do that again.
Why did you end up choosing civil engineering?
As a kid, I actually didn't really know what a civil engineer was or did or what their responsibilities were, and I even think about being an engineer. I actually wanted to be a naval aviator. And I realized that the chances of being successful at that were probably pretty slim. But I also had an opportunity in the summertime to go work for a consulting firm. And I'd just been certified as a scuba diver, and a family friend was a coastal engineer close to where I lived, and said, hey, we need an extra set of hands to dive and service equipment and do some surveying work this summer. Could you help? I said, well, it depends on what you're paying. They said, well, we'll pay you $20 an hour. I said, absolutely. And so I spent an entire summer working on a boat, being above water, in the water, underwater, doing inspections, did a little bit of office work, but most of the time I was, working outside and loving every minute of it. And I realized you could do that for a living. And I thought, man, that's what I got to do. So somebody told me, gave me some very wise advice, is go get a 4-year degree in civil engineering. You'll have a nice broad background, and then from there go specialize in what you really want to do. And I want to do coastal engineering, so that's what I did.
And I think that kind of explains why you chose coastal.
Yeah, it really does. I grew up on the water, so I was either sailing, fishing, diving, snorkeling. We lived very close to the water, spent my entire summer on the water, and so for me it was a natural fit. And my parents always said when I was younger, don't get a job for the money, get a job to do what you want to do and what you love. And I thought, well, if I already love being on the water, that's a way to keep me close to it. So coastal engineering to me, I know it's a profession, but it doesn't feel like my job. It's almost like my hobby. It's my interest. And that's what keeps me motivated every day. I never feel like I have to come to work. I feel like I get to come to work and do this. And to me, it's an honor. It's a blessing. I like to be able to do this.
Do you actually get to dive as part of coastal? Like, would that ever come up?
Absolutely. I don't tend to do it a lot for the university because of the restrictions. We use university scientific divers for that because of the risk involved. But outside of the university, for doing outside external work and just as a hobby, diving is a big part of being a coastal engineer. Absolutely.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. And you said earlier you've been here for 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years last summer.
What do you think makes the program here, the civil, specifically civil, what do you think that makes it unique or special here at South?
To me, the big thing has always been that the faculty, I believe, especially in our department, try and make it a point to learn who their students are. We still are able to do that because, for the most part, our class sizes are not abnormally large. So if you plopped us out of this setting and went to an Auburn or Alabama, we'd be teaching much larger, maybe double the size of the classes. And it becomes difficult to actually know who your students are. I think the thing that really sets us apart is because our class sizes are smaller, we do have the ability to actually learn who our students are, get to know them on a personal level, which I think does help, especially when conflict arises or there are problems. We feel, and hopefully the students do feel as well, that they can actually talk to us, not only just on a professional level, but also on a personal level. And I think it does make a difference in their ability to get through the program, to master the content, and to go out and be good young engineers.
Definitely seen that in my time here at South. Do you have any advice for a student while they're here in the undergraduate program?
I think the biggest thing is to understand and appreciate what you're doing and try to get involved with as many things as you want. A lot of people will come into a college curriculum and not really fully understand why they're there and what they're doing, and some people equate it to a lack of passion or a lack of maturity and not really understanding or making a point to decide what they want to do for their profession. Once you make that decision and commit to it, you should put your full effort into learning the material, not just going to class and worrying about your grade and trying to say, I've got to get through this class to get to my next class so I can get my degree and get a job. It's not about that. It's, you don't have to do this. Nobody's forcing you to be in here. You get the privilege of being here, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have the ability to study civil engineering. They won't have the ability to practice as a civil engineer. And believe it or not, civil engineers make a difference in society. Usually we only get notoriety when things don't work, so we don't get a lot of praise for when they do. But it's a very rewarding profession. But to be able to be rewarded, you have to put effort in. So to me, it's always best to try and treat college a little bit like a job. You got to have fun too, but try and be disciplined because you'll set yourself up with good habits in your young professional career, and that'll make a difference too. Employers will see that.
Yeah. What about after graduation, as far as deciding on the right fit for yourself? Do you have any advice for post-graduation?
You need to be flexible. You need to be willing to leave an area geographically and go somewhere else and try something new, work with a different group of people. You will have, as a civil engineering student coming out of our program, I would say 100% job placement if you don't have a geographic constraint. I think the best thing young people can do, or anybody can do, is get out of their comfort zone and go experience a new place to live, a new culture, a new work environment, a new group of people. You'll learn how to do things slightly differently. You'll learn how fundamentally we're all pretty much the same, even if we're geographically in different areas. So it's a good life lesson, but honestly, just be flexible to trying different things. I would say that the second most important thing is making sure that you never stop learning. There's a strong commitment to lifelong learning within ASCE and the civil engineering profession overall. And it's really understated, and we probably don't do a good enough job in our classes to try and drive that point home to our students that even though when you take your last exam, you take the FE, you take the PE, learning never stops. I mean, you're going to have to be committed to keeping up with the profession as times change and as technologies change. Codes and rules will change too, and we need to be able to keep up with that.
That's very sound advice. What all research are you a part of here?
So everything I do is specifically related to coastal engineering. So it's always got a water focus, but I tend to be more focused on what's going on in our estuaries, our bays, our sounds, and our coastal oceans. The big part of my research right now is related to coastal resilience. And there are kind of two themes within that. There's resilience to the natural environment. So how can we manage our natural systems like our beaches and our shorelines and our marshes to be resilient to stresses that we put on them, like boat wake activity and storm events and things like that. And then what's naturally occurring over longer periods of times like sea level rise and climate change. We want to be able to manage those systems so that they still continue to provide a natural function over time. The second thing then, or theme within coastal resilience, is the resilience of the built environment. So our residential structures, our commercial structures, our civil engineering infrastructure, what can we do to make those adaptable to hazards as they change over time? So, there's always going to be a bigger, badder storm out there in the future, and we have to be willing to accept, not only some risk that's going to happen, but we have to be able to adapt when it does. So we want to make sure that when we design and build a new bridge, that it's going to be as resilient and as resistant and as adaptive to changes in those hazards and stressors as we can possibly predict at the time that the design is occurring.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
One of the things that civil engineering students can do to really set them up for early success in their professional careers is to really go beyond the 4-year engineering curriculum with a bachelor's degree. I'm not saying everybody should pursue a graduate degree or a master's degree. It's not going to be for everybody, and I think that's well understood. But some people have a natural curiosity that they should then follow through and pursue a little bit more advanced technical training. You don't have to get a full graduate degree, but taking additional classes outside of your comfort zone or what you think is your area of expertise can be very beneficial. having a commitment to taking some kind of structured learning after you graduate to continue to pursue that interest is very important. And I think most people benefit from it professionally, not only in terms of monetary changes in their salary, so there's monetary benefit, but also you get to work on better projects. So the more technically adept you are as a young engineer, the more interesting things you will see. You will also, instead of being trapped in an office all day, you'll be put into situations where you might be managing projects very early in your career. So you'll be interacting with clients, interacting with elected officials, working with regulatory agencies on permitting issues, working on the financing side. There are a lot more things to engineering than just putting your pencil to paper and plugging numbers into a calculator. It's really just a very broad discipline that we find ourselves in, and it gives you lots of opportunities if you are that much more technically prepared to be able to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.